you know, and he's telling us no more feeding on garbage. Stop eating the garbage. I have fruit for you. Yeah, but I have to go over there. Yes, come over here. Come away from that. Like, you know, come away from the people and the things that influence you and pull you down and all the rest of it. That's all garbage. Let me show you a new thing so that you can actually affect them instead of them affecting you. Mm.
I had a moment today, a little moment, that I moved and looked in a particular direction and I felt like the Terminator. And it was like, yeah, so what was spoke to me about that was, yeah, it wasn't me. It was the spirit moving, and it was like, yeah, it was just a glimpse of it.
Yeah, I have this picture one about becoming, and it's similar, a little bit similar to the Matrix, in terms of, but in the picture I saw, I was like being held up, and it was like I've been just been finally it's been released, and I realized something about my character, which was sometimes I was afraid to really speak the truth to people, how I really am, and I felt that starting to change, where I only understood the truth, so now I was only going to speak the truth. But and in doing that, I could feel the real me coming out. So it's interesting. We talk about all the spiritual stuff and all the rest of it, but it's the real you being revealed, and you become more relaxed because you've accepted yourself, and you're accepted yourself in God, and it's this kind of, you know, you're no longer shy. All that stuff has gone out the window, and you realize that you are here to help them. You're here to help them. You are. They have no idea. And you see them, and you don't feel intimidated by them. That's not a thing anymore. You know, as you get that sense of being released and you becoming yourself, intimidation for you is not a thing anymore. You know, and you begin to understand. You see the Lord with you differently as well. It's like, you know, two comrades in arms together. This kind of sense. Um, I think the thing that's for me that's almost like sad is like, this is just the beginning. This is the Lord is opening for me personally. Like, this is a life that He wanted all the saints to be living for a long time ago, where we are free and we see things from His perspective, and we run as sons, we act as sons, we jump as sons, and we speak as sons, and we're not dependent on the world in any way at all. Just Him. And now we're beginning to get glimpses of there's a different life, there's a newer life, yeah. And now it's pouring. Now we begin to see that unfold. Yeah. So it's exciting. I'm excited. Learning new things. Yeah.
We're having pancakes.
Yeah. Wow. I'm glad I bought extra.
I like the stop thinking.
Stop thinking. Yeah.
I like to process everything. That's the
Ah.
thing I have to process. Why? When? And now you said about Eve and Adam. Eve tried to process with Satan, you know, like working out. Is that going to happen if you eat? As you said, Adam just had God. Didn't process anything. He
Yeah.
obeyed. It's not to touch, don't touch. That is it.
Yeah.
He did eat.
Eh?
Did he? Adam did eat.
Oh,
Yeah.
Adam did eat
And he did
No, but
disobey
he didn't
God.
process like until Eve processed with Satan. Then she convinced him, I believe. So
Yeah.
I think when you process too much, you give space for Satan come also to give ideas. So yeah, I've started thinking like shut my understanding too much. Some people are like this. I'm the kind of person like this. I like to think.
Yeah.
I can give an example.
Uh,
So when we went away to Linden's farm, on the last day I actually got over to an island called Cutler Island where it's sea locked when the tide comes in. And I walked over there and I got there and I prayed and I did all the things that I saw myself do the night before in a vision. And then I heard the angels sing, and then God said, run, run. And so I got up and I ran the way that he told me to run. And the tide was coming in. And he said, run across the other side. And so I ran because I thought, oh, if I get trapped here, Catherine's going to murder me. Right? And so I ran across and I ran up the cliff. And it was later that day that I realised that my cuffs of my trousers were wet and I had wet marks up the side of the back side of my trousers, but my shoes were completely dry. And I realised that I actually ran across the water because the actual water was about 1.5 feet to 2 feet deep when I went across it, and I didn't realise. If I had thought about it, I would have had to wade through it. But I just did what he told me to do, and therefore got across. Right. So it is about thinking. Today I put a link on, I think it was on the Thursday groups,
Yeah, it
on
was.
Heidi Bar
Yeah.
Baker.
I started listening to that, yeah.
She was talking about a leprous man, and she wanted to give the leprous man a hug because that's what she usually does. And God said to her, no, grab him by the hand. And she was talking about how his hand was all squidgy. Alright, and so she's squidging up. And then God said to her, stamp on his foot. And you would think, that's going to end up messy.
Yeah.
Alright? But she stamped on his foot and he yelped in pain. Do you know what that means?
He's healed.
He was healed
Wow.
because he could feel the pain.
Yeah.
Alright? And that's the thing. Normally, we'd look at it, well, no, that's a bit too violent.
Yeah.
Stamping on
Yeah.
someone's foot, that's pressure now.
Yeah.
But it's doing that released the healing.
Yeah.
So she didn't think about it, just did it.
Yeah. Wow. I bet we've all got times where we've done it, even if it's on not as biblically dramatic. If you think about it, you probably have. You know, that time where you decide to walk that way and then something happens, you come across someone. That's happened loads to us on our dog walks, hasn't it, Samantha? So I always like feel into when it's time to leave or when it's time to walk that way or this way or the other. And yeah, there's always a reason. Yeah.
I just want to add one thing. When you come to this spending time and learning not to think, don't expect it to be overnight, but just be aware now that the Lord has given you the ability to not think. You may get scared and think, I have to think, because that's your old way of doing things. But you have to resist that and trust that if you know that what he said is clear, this is what he's saying to you, then just follow that process, or his process through, not your normal thinking process. Just follow the Spirit in that area. And it is different, but it is the way. Yeah, He'll show you, and then you begin to, because the scripture says we have the mind of Christ, and it's learning how this mind works for us as individuals. Forget
That's
the
what
books
that
and the rest of it.
Terminator
Just
thing felt like.
yeah.
A little glimpse of, yeah.
Why Terminator in particular?
I don't know. It's like I was just walking along,
Yeah.
and then I just went
Mm.
and looked, and that's the first thing that just came to mind.
Terminator.
Was
Nice.
Terminator,
That's one of my favorite movies.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was
Terminator
just,
2.
I mean, I could have thought Matrix. I could have thought, but it was Terminator for some reason.
Terminator.
Ah,
Like,
sorry. There's one more thing.
maybe I terminated something that I didn't look
One more
at.
thing I haven't told you. It says I've written many ministries and ministers are caught up in a cycle. So the ministry looks always the same. They only do the same, and it's a cycle.
Yeah.
And Jesus is saying, don't do that. He doesn't have a cycle. So when you look through the Gospels, you just find this guy's going to the cross and to this place, and he's going to heaven, and he's up in heaven, and he's made place for us, and everything is just not the same. It's just going boom. So be careful of the cycle. Don't make a religion out of don't make a religion out of it for you. Just keep going.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting when he took the earth and spat on it and put it on the person, because he was just the healings and deliverances were happening in different ways, right?
There was no one that was the same. It was all different.
Yeah.
He didn't go for the day at Princess Brook and go, oh, that bit. Oh, hang on, now I pray.
Yeah.
He listened to what God said and then did it.
Yeah, exactly.
To go and fish and get a fish and get a coin out of the fish's mouth.
Yeah.
So random. Could have just made a coin appear. But you had to do something.
But God is random.
Yeah.
He's going to say stuff that makes you go, oh, hang on, that's kind of mental. And that's why you're not meant to think. You just go and do it.
It's only mental if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always often conversations. We have a lot of conversations with people of dog walking. If anyone ever wants to come on a dog walk, I'm there every day.
You're coming already, can you, Hugh?
It's pretty profound, because we're right there, just listening to and knowing where to go and talking to people. And sometimes you're just aware that person that you're talking to, you're talking to them on a completely different level. You're talking to them in the spirit, and you get an inkling from that person that they know as well. Even though they might not consciously be fully aware, you can kind of see.
Well,
So it's fun.
You can tap into a different timeline. You can talk to the future version of them that's in the spirit.
I like to play with it and test it out, and just sort of just put a little seed in and see whether they take it. And when they do, it's like, oh, you've connected in that way. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, so dog walks, everybody come for dog walkies, yeah.
One last thing, for anybody who suffered mentally long, it's a strange prophecy, but I'll give it to you. The Lord says, I will make the long short and the short long. Do you understand that?
Anyone that suffers what?
From a long term, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what it was, but he said, I'm going to make
Yeah.
the long short and the short long. And I found it interesting, especially when the best things in our life at this point in time were short. And the most horrible things just long. So I was like, Lord, you're so deep. I love it. I will make the long short and the short long.
Right, pancakes.
Bye, you.
Okay, we'll see what I can